All right, so it has been a trying month. It's BD. It has been a taxing month, to say the least. Uh, Basically, I wanted to explain my absence a bit for the past almost a month now, Jesus Christ, and go over what exactly kept me from being on Reddit, on YouTube, etc. Um, excuse me. That this is one of the reasons. Also, I wanted to kind of paint the picture that even if you have mild success, your life is not going to be all together all the time. So, let's lay out my, well, actually, first. So, this one might be long. This one does not have anything to do with my usual content, but I think some of you younger guys can benefit from it. So, stay tuned. But if you like what I do, I have a Patreon. If you want to support the cause, working on trying to write 2 posts a month there. And then I have Leviathan Wellness. Oh, would you look at that? It's going to be backwards on camera. This is a stimulant-free pre-workout called Vigor. It is formulated for best bang for your buck, so it is not going to be the $60 shit that you see from Gorilla Mode, but it's also not going to be that garbage you see at Walmart. What me and Hank were trying to do is find the sweet middle ground for best performance to cost ratio, and I think we've done that. It's a good way to support us and our content since we're on YouTube. This stuff usually doesn't get monetized. So it's good. It pairs with almost every pre-workout already that is stimulant, so that means with caffeine. But yeah, Vigor, Leviathan Sups, and now on Amazon. So let me complain for probably 20 minutes. All right. Let's talk about my current schedule. Schedule is a loose term here. First, I wake up, eat breakfast, go to the gym for an hour to an hour and a half every day. And then I will do my PE for 40 minutes. And then I will work for 6 to 8 hours for my full-time job. I have my clients, I have Reddit, I have YouTube, and then I have all the orders to fulfill for Leviathan Sups and my own website, Peak Male Physique. Then, on top of that, I have to manage product, whether that be order more, make it, distribute it, etc. Basic living, so eating, showering, sleeping, and then family duties. I am a husband. I think I've said that like 10 times now. I have 3 dogs, and I am a homeowner, so, I have a bunch of shit that I have to do. So my schedule is pretty full to begin with. And like most other businesses, and I guess this Reddit stuff is a business now, demand increases and wanes randomly, depending on the cycle. Again, excuse me, I'll get to why I have the sniffles in a bit. And since I am a one-man show, that demand can be very hard to overcome on my own. Therefore, I can get stretched thin pretty quickly. So if I get a bit of bad luck, I'm just screwed, essentially. But basically, for the past month, I just had a string of pretty bad luck. So first thing that happened was that my big ass saltwater tank had an issue where there is a stray voltage in the tank, which means if I stuck my hand into it, I would shock myself. So I had to drain that and remove the fishies from any impending harm. It didn't really affect them at first, but if you know a little bit about marine life, that chronic electrocution actually causes them to waste away. So to save these very expensive fish, I had to rush them all to my basement. That was a day process on its own, setting up 2 separate tanks for 10 fish. And then I had to tear down and empty this tank because, it was stunk just sitting there with tepid water the entire time. So that took 2 days out of my month already. Surprisingly enough, though, that went smoothly until about 4 days in. Then I had a tank essentially crash, which means toxins started to build up in the water, and then that killed 3 fish essentially from that kind of shock. It sucks, but that's part of the deal. But yeah, I was pretty defeated going into, oh my God, was that 3 weeks ago? It all blurs together. And essentially, if I slowed down and just took my time with this process, I wouldn't have lost any fish. I would have saved myself the headache of tearing down that tank and all that shit if I just relaxed and breathed and made sure what I was doing was the right decision. And then during this entire tank crash, my wife wanted to be daring in the kitchen, that is. She wanted to make chicken wings at home. I know, they're not very difficult, right? But she wanted to air fry them. Now, I'm actually quite competent in the chicken. I'm actually quite competent in the kitchen. You don't get to over 227 pounds without being good in the kitchen and not be a complete fat mess. I was kind of fat, but that's besides the point. So I knew my way around. I knew how to prepare food safely. But since I was rushing between all these different projects and now this tank issue, I rushed making these chicken wings. Basically, the wings were huge. The air fryer could not handle them all. Some of the centers of these chicken wings were not thoroughly cooked, if you can see where I'm going. Now, the real kicker is that my wife saw these undercooked chicken wings on my plate and didn't tell me about it. I don't think she meant anything by it, obviously, but just like, what are you doing? So the next day I was basically shitting my guts out. Lost a lot of sleep because of it. Now, your boy has a gut of steel, so I was basically up and moving by, I guess it was Thursday at this point. Now, while this was happening, I get an email from the company that produces Vigor saying, hey, we told you 12 weeks, well, guess what? It was actually 8. We're sending you Vigor. It'll be to your house within 2 to 4 business days. So, like I said, I thought I had well over a month at this point to get prepared for this. No. So here I go, rushing again. And at this point, my house is a wreck. Between all the projects, strewn about dog toys that I haven't been able to pick up because, 3 huskies, dirty laundry, there was no good place to put them at that current time. So I spent the rest of the day recovering from food poisoning, cleaning up my basement, which had projects from well over a year ago that I never got to finish. So Vigor finally arrives. I'm actually super excited for it because, I've been waiting well over, God, I think it was June when we first started talking about it with our contact at the manufacturer. So, there's a long time in the making and it was finally happening. So got them all in, no real issue other than just, being a sweaty mess afterwards. I started packing them up in the morning after. It was Veterans Day. That is very important to note. I head to the post office with about 50 orders pre-packaged because these were pre-order shipments. I get there. In the United States, the post office is closed on Veterans Day. So I drove home and left the 50 orders in my wife's car. Because, no big deal. I'll just send them out on Monday. Later on in the day, I go to the home improvement store to set up things for the new coming tank to replace the one that I just tore down. I have a big mental note when I get back. Hey, make sure you lock this. You still have all those orders in there. And this, leaving your keys in the car, has been a bad habit over the past year. But something threw me off. And guess who left the keys in their car? Yeah. Guess what happened? Out of the 10 times that I've left the keys in the car, the one night where I had something relatively of high value in the trunk is when it was jacked. Now, I know I left myself open for this. I'm just saying, what are the odds that it would happen when I had all this shit in the back of my trunk? Now, a theme of this plethora of bad luck is that a lot of this is coming down to me not being in the moment and not following through with all my tasks because I have so much on my plate, I am not thinking about the present moment. All I had to do was keep the keys in with me, right? But since I'm either thinking about my clients, thinking about Reddit, thinking about theory, thinking about when I'm going to be able to walk my dogs. I left myself open and I got burned because of it. So that day I wake up, I feel like it's finally going to turn around from this shitty week that I have been having. But before I leave the gym, I hear my wife say, "Hey, did you park out front?" And then my heart just sinks. Oh man, I knew what happened. I just didn't want to believe it. As I think most of you would in that situation, you're just kind of, your mind goes blank. And you just, what I did was I just ran out and I just like looked down the alley and then it wasn't there. So, basically someone walked down my alley in the middle of the night, stole my car, my wife's car rather, without any effort. Again, I've done this multiple times. But when I have items from my newly started business just chilling in the back, of course this is when it happens. It's almost like poetic justice. So, at this point, I killed 4 expensive fish, gotten food poisoning, and my wife's car stolen, along with 10% of my new company's product. Just because I am not on top of it at the moment. At this point, I had a mental break. I wouldn't say it's the shittiest I've ever felt, not even this year, but, and this is because I developed a lot of like mental fortitude tools to not let that dismay sink in. One of the best things I've ever read to help me with this is Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I know it's pretty fucking cliche, but if you let yourself actually accept the thoughts that he wants you to, it's not even him. It's a complicated book, but, or rather the history of this book is complicated, but there is a lot of good life advice in that book that, if you take to heart, can actually help you a lot in my experience. And this is the stoicism in general that I practice. Anyway, if I didn't have these newfound safeguards for my mental fortitude, I would have been a lot worse off. So that's something I think everyone needs to start working on, is being able to handle the worst situation or control your emotions in these situations, right? But even with all this stuff, at this point, I was just shut down mentally. Like, I had no emotion whatsoever. Just because, you're in shock. You lost something that's worth $15,000 plus the whatever potential from your new business right then and there. You're not going to be feeling too great about yourself, especially when it's easily avoided. Now, the real kicker is that I bought basketball tickets for a trip to Cleveland to see the Cavaliers play. It's not what I was looking forward to it for months at this point. And of course, this event was the day after I had my wife's car stolen. So even though I enjoyed my time there, I still had a huge cloud over my head the entire time. I'm just starting to sweat, guys, so if I have weird hair, forgive me after this point. Now, there's a bit of a silver lining to her getting her car jacked. My wife landed a new job that was about a 3-minute walk from our house. And on top of that, it's 80% more of a pay, it was 80% more pay on top of that. So we figured out we didn't even need a new car anyway, and she basically had $10,000 fall in her lap potentially if things didn't work out with finding the vehicle. And she would have gifted me the money to cover the loss of product from this insurance payout, because she's a saint and I do not deserve her. And again, it really isn't substantial when you look at the numbers. I'm not going to break down my business numbers on camera just yet, but still, it's a very nice gesture. But the next Monday, so 2 Mondays ago, this is where things got weird. We had a call from the police in the afternoon saying, "Hey, we found your car in X neighborhood. Can you come pick it up?" So we get there, the car is completely fine, it reeks of weed. It probably took a week and a half to just get this damn smell out, but it was fine. And on top of that, all but one package was fine, one was opened. So I didn't lose any product in that time frame. So somehow, crisis averted, even though I had some of the worst luck I've ever had. in the past, well, in my entire adult life at this point, I still managed to come out of it unscathed, relatively speaking. Now, the week's not over yet. I still have a big-ass tank coming to replace the one that I just tore down, and now I have days to prepare for it. Or so I thought. For some reason, my products come from Georgia. My tank was coming from central Florida, Tampa Bay. So it should have taken 4 days to get there, you would think, right? So apparently there's like a Stargate in Atlanta that connects to Pittsburgh, and no matter what I would do, it would ship shit in 2 days, which sounds great, right? But not when you have faulty information to start. They both said about 4 days. So instead of having the entire weekend to plan for this tank, I got it in 2 days. But remember when I went to Cleveland? Guess who contracted COVID? Me, and that is why I sound the way I sound, and probably more nasally than normal. See? So my main symptoms, and I should have fucking knew this as soon as it happened because I had the same things with the vaccine, is that I had severe insomnia where I just could not sleep to save the life of me. My nervous system knew something was fucky. Okay? So before the tank arrived, I got 6 hours of sleep over the past 48 hours. I cannot function on less than 6 hours of sleep a day to begin with. Now, somehow I was able to manage to get this tank into my living room with essentially 40% of the strength that I would normally have. So, not trying to brag, this was really dumb, and if I knew I had COVID, I wouldn't have done it. But I was able to do it. But because of that, but on top of that, for some reason, Pittsburgh no longer has normal weather. Maybe it never did, but it was 70 degrees the couple days beforehand, and then of course the day when the tank comes, it's snowing. So, if I don't know a better way to aggravate a upper respiratory infection than with a dramatic change from hot to cold and then staying out in the cold for 6 hours. So, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I was just down. I could barely think. Basically, I felt like I had pneumonia, I felt like I had bronchitis, I felt like I had a sinus infection, something different every day. Great time. I was able to do small things to the tank to get it ready for like the fill and stuff like that. But there was no way in hell I was going to be able to be reaching out to clients, fulfilling orders. And again, that would be a liability on our end if I was fulfilling orders with coronavirus. So that's why orders are delayed currently. But during all this, in my defeated stupor, I was able to reflect and figure out what I needed to do to prevent this from happening again. First and foremost, I need to come up with a form of structure in my day. After lockdowns, I essentially lost any discipline I had to a schedule because I was permanently working from home, and then I was not able to go to the gym for 6 weeks, which is actually a short period of time compared to some of you other guys. But because of that, changing my schedule to being completely open all the fucking time, I lost any good habits that I had set up beforehand. So like, I'd go to work, I'd go to the gym, I'd come home, repeat. Yeah, it sounds boring, but like if you have goals, it makes it much easier when you have that set schedule. And without that set schedule, I've been running around with a chicken, or like a chicken with its head cut off. So I've been running around like a chicken with its head cut off. And it's amazing that I've actually been able to get as much done as I really have been, because it's just been so inefficient. It's basically me throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks. So, first and foremost, I need to get a better schedule. This will also help me manage my sanity, if you will, because then I can actually schedule free time for me to relax. I need that like hour or two a day just to decompress from whatever it is. Mainly, the only time I really had to myself, and was not like for business ventures, was weightlifting. And even then, now that I sell supplements, like I have incentive to work out to look like I fit the role. So I don't really do anything for myself anymore. And I need to change that. just for my own, well-being. This scheduling will also help me compartmentalize my thoughts, so that way my mind's not constantly wandering from project to project, and maybe I won't leave my keys in the car next time, right? Only time will tell. I've always been a bit of a forget-me-not, but, So second, I need to reevaluate what my current goals are. Basically, I don't really know what's most important to me. Whether it be my physique goals, including PE, or business goals. In general, I'm starting to think with all the shit I have on my plate, I need to divide and conquer to get where I want to be. Basically, the way I see it is that I am very close to elite in 3 categories, and that would be muscle mass, body fat, and penis size. And it's hard to get over the hump of all 3 of those with focusing on all 3. So one of those is going to have to take a step back while I accomplish the other 2. Or take a break from one of them so I can work it back into my schedule later. I still have to work out the details. When it comes to the business, I'm at the point where I need more time and energy, to be honest, to handle all of my responsibilities so between the clients that I have, between having all these orders come in, even though it's really not that much just yet, but if I get slammed and I don't have enough product made, I can be fucked for a week. And then it's like I'm just behind for a week chronically until I finally get the time to sit down and make, say, 3 or 4 batches of lotion in one go. Anyway, I don't want to bore you with the details, but that shit, at this point, I need to figure out a path where I can feasibly leave my current full-time job and not really have a change in lifestyle to match. Because, I like how I live. Let's be honest, everyone likes having good spending money. So I need to figure out how I can improve the profits of this business so I can do this full-time. Now, I know it sounds a little selfish, but if I'm able to do this full-time, I'm able to help more people. So, yeah. On top of that, I just want my own freedom. I don't want to have a boss. I want to be able to live and die by my own decisions and not someone else's. So, that's where I'm at with that. I'm not actually far off, but I don't want to get too personal with it just yet. So why am I speaking to the camera, just complaining into the void about my shitty month? First, with now 5,000 subscribers of predominantly young men, I want to show that even with the mild amount of success I have, I do not have it all together. And you will not always have it all together, even if you are at the very top. Look at what's happening with Elon Musk right now. He's literally destroying Twitter because his ego is not allowing him to take a step back and let the people who actually know what the fuck they're doing with social media handle it. But that's besides the point. What I'm saying is that I don't want you to think that I live a perfect life just because you see bits and pieces of my life on camera that I've cherry-picked for you. That's something I absolutely hate about social media, is that it's cherry-picked and you feel pressure to live such a perfect life all the time, when these fuckers are not living the perfect life. And they probably don't even look like what they do in the pictures, if we're being honest with how prevalent Photoshop is. And that's besides the point. I'm starting to lose my voice. Basically, I wanted to show you that I still have all these weaknesses that I need to work on, because you also have weaknesses that you need to work on, and showing weakness needs to be more acceptable, because that's the only way you're going to know when you need to improve. So this last month has been quite humbling for me. Again, it's cyclical. 6 months of good, 6 months of bad now. But you will have these life events that get in your way. And I just felt like, one, I needed to explain why I was not around for the past month almost. 2, you can learn from my failures. And I have no problem failing publicly, okay? I think it's my duty to let you guys know that what's going on a bit, and that I am here to show you how to not fuck up the same way I have. And I'll eventually get to that, but I don't think I'm at the state currently where I can do that responsibly. But I'll get there. So my camera's about to expire on time. LeviathanSups.com. It's also on Amazon for Vigor. Patreon. This is BD signing off, and I hopefully will be around more often with more well-produced content soon. Okay. One more thing. So you know how I was doing all these experiments, right? Like PRP, PG&E1, transdermal, all that shit. Obviously, through all of this, I've not had time to successfully follow through with all these experiments. So consider them inconclusive for the time being. I am not going to touch PRP for a long while, unfortunately, but I will try to use PG&E-1 while I have the chance. Also, I will have a follow-up video on PRP with my final thoughts on it. And yeah, we'll go from there. So, bye-bye.